All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning and good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Matthew. Welcome to Journey to the Cloud. As always, I'm happy to welcome Solomon, Kaylin, Henry, and any others that join us. Tonight's event is all about Lorraine Lawrence. She is the SIR content manager for Microsoft. Myself and Lorraine have kind of developed I suppose, a good relationship over the last few years, from her training me virtually over COVID to now having Lorraine on our webinar series. Lorraine, welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me back, actually.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just mute our mics and cameras. Lorraine, I suppose we'll start off by introducing you properly. Do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm currently a senior content portfolio manager at Microsoft. So I handle the highest level engineering training at Microsoft. So we train them in the technologies, new ways of doing certain things, and creating that training for them, so they're able to handle cases when they log in and people call in for technical support.
Okay, all right. I suppose so. I had a list of questions that I had been preparing for you. Since I watched the last video for Journey to the Cloud, you really raised some important, I suppose, topics. Some of it I found really interesting. You gave us a bit about your story and where you're from. Toronto, what is it like?
If you haven't been to Toronto, you're missing out, is all I want to say. We have the best food in the world in Toronto. We have so many cultures, so many different ethnic groups. Our food is amazing. I have people that say they've never had Jamaican roti before, and we have some really good ones about half a mile from my house. It's amazing. When my kids come from overseas, they always go there because we get some really authentic foods in Canada. Any type of food, you will find it here. So, and even it gets really cold in the winter, but gets really hot in the summer. So we get 35 to 40 degrees Celsius in the summer, but minus 30 in the winter. So we get quite the extent of extremes of weather, but we love it still.
Okay, all right, okay, fair enough. And I suppose one thing you mentioned in the last webinar, you said learning is a journey, not a destination. Is this pretty much, I suppose, your mantra in life or in how you work? And elaborate more on that for us.
Yeah, great question. So I think it is a journey because you don't know where you're going to end up. When I started in university, I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Advertising and Computer Science. So who knew where that would take me? 99% of my friends went into traditional arts, so they're painters and artists. I took the computer route and I've got into advertising after that. So who knows where the path is? That's why it's a journey, because you may be interested in something else and find ways that you can use your skills, your background to learn in that different path. So I started advertising. I went into advertising. I became an art director. From there, I've designed, just changed the way I saw things and changed the way I looked at things, and then got into teaching from there, which is, that's not a clear path. So I think there's so many different ways, and even you can transform yourself. Say I hate training from now on. I want to get into something else. I can learn to be something else. There's the technologies everywhere you go. So there's always a way of getting into a new path. You're not set on this one path. Before, I'm going to say traditionally, they used to be, you studied to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever that is, and that was your path for life. Now we have the ability and the power and the technology to do whatever you want. So it is a journey, and you add to that journey, and your background is so unique because you do things that and no one else would have the same journey as you because you've learned different things and your strengths make you unique. So that's why I think it's a journey.
Okay, so you had mentioned you worked in IKEA. What did you enjoy the most about IKEA, especially considering it's very creative? I suppose the
Yeah, so I
adverts
was
have
in the
always been
advertising department.
creative. Yeah,
I was in the advertising department. So when I worked at Apple and IKEA, they teach you simplicity. So we get inundated by paperwork and diagrams and illustrations and video. IKEA is all about making it simple. It's the UX before it became UX, right? So they made sure everything they did was very simple to manage. People could understand how to order things. The ads were very simple. There wasn't 15 things on the ad, and then you had to figure out what they're talking about. So IKEA and like Apple, simplicity is what they teach you, and I think that's where the whole UX came out of there because we are taught now what does the user want? How can they find what you need? Take off what you see on screen and just be simple. Think of the Google search bar. Think of how many hours and people that came into just having that simple search. And they got rid of
yeah.
everything else on screen. And that was a huge a change for that company to realize simplicity is what you need to do. We get bombarded with technology and visuals and text and books and everything else. We need to simplify.
What was working in Apple like in terms of is it what people say it is? Is it a high pressure job to work there in the area that you worked in? What was the truth behind Apple? Like, is it as good as people say for
It
anyone
is.
looking
It's
to go and work in
there's a
Apple?
shroud around Apple, secrets like a secret curtains of what happens behind Apple, and it's because they had a secret sauce. They did things before everyone else was doing it. Like he was going down the right path with the simplicity. Apple did it in technology, so they had to, of course, be better at what they did. They had to know what they're doing. Really, they spent a lot of time researching whatever they did. When you see their ads, you see how simple their ads are. That's a lot of thought into those simple ads. When they bring out new technology, it's very simple. Again, they do the A/B testing. They test on different users to see how they react to it, and it's UX where it started way back then, before it even was labeled. So yes, Apple is IKEA is simple, but they're also the technology. They have to, of course, be better in technology. They're watching to see what users use. They want to understand what users do with the products. That's why they ask you all these questions. When you come in into the Genius Bar, they see what kind of questions you have. They figure out ways of supporting that without you having to come in again. So they're looking at everything to improve your experience. And that's why you have to give them kudos because I'm going to say one of the first ones that really worked on customer service. And when you called Apple, when you came into that Genius Bar, you got that service, and they were known for that. And they took it one level higher before anyone else did, and now everyone's catching up.
You said as part of working over the last few years, you when you worked for Salesforce and Workday, did you have many travel requirements? What was traveling like? Did it get to a point where you actually, you were tired of traveling and you wanted to settle somewhere, or did it get to a point where even though you were settled, you still wanted to travel everywhere and anywhere? What was the travel experience like in your career so far?
Yeah, I think I when I worked at that company where I did the Salesforce and Workday stuff, travel was very vital because you got to see the impact of what you were doing to your audience. So that's where it was really important. If I stayed at home and just did the training online, I would not get the same experience. So sometimes travel is crucial, especially when I started with Microsoft. You get to see how the audience reacts to what you develop. So I was a organizational change manager when I was doing Salesforce and Workday. So I brought in the course, taught the course, watched them how they reacted to it, watched how they used it for a couple hours, and then got their feedback so I could change and tweak as necessary to make the training more efficient, more curated for them. So icing on the cake, you get to see how your product is with the users. So I didn't mind traveling. I went all over Asia with them and a lot of Canada, of course, and in the US. But that is the best part of training is getting to see how your users react to what you're showing them. So it's crucial. So you
When
can't keep traveling and missing out on that.
did have you had the opportunity to come to Ireland yet in your travels?
No, I haven't. And I've gone as far as so when I was for Salesforce Marketing, I went all over Asia, Guangzhou, Shanghai, Beijing. I went a lot of the US, a lot of the Canada, but I didn't go Ireland as yet. So one day, and I want to go
Yeah.
to that
So
Microsoft. data center. I want to go there one day.
So I'd be hoping that just like I did with myself and Dan Ray, Frank and Ricardo, we all met up recently, as you know. It was amazing. It was the experience of the community and what Microsoft is like.
Wow.
Um, I suppose it all starts like everything, and like all the most simple things in life. It all starts with a message, or it all starts with a text, or it all starts with a comment. And that's how my journey and Dan's journey started together. And it went from three guys on a video call to, you know, to hundreds of people tuning in. And I mean, the fact that Dan came over from the US recently, he stayed at my house, he stayed at Frank's, we went out for meals. It was a weekend that just, it was amazing, and we got to go up and see Microsoft all together, as you gathered from the photos. Sometime you're going to have to come to Ireland and do that with
Oh, I would
me
love to. If
and
I
with
got the
Frank,
invite,
and
I'd be there.
yeah, yeah.
I
So you
talked
you
about
have to
that data
come.
center in my training for years, so I would love to go to that data center.
You're gonna have to get Microsoft and tell them you need to network with the Irish MCTs and MCEs and MVPs, and you need to get over here and do that bit of networking, because that's really important.
I will.
Um,
I will.
so okay, I suppose a topic that is dear to both of our hearts as teachers. You obviously before me, because it was you I learned a lot from, yourself, Christian, and Chelsea Lee, when it all started a few years ago. Teaching. How have you found this? How have you found it through COVID? What have you liked? What have you disliked? What do you wish wasn't the way it was at the time? Like what could you have said to yourself that would have got you through some of maybe the not so nice times of teaching remotely?
Yeah. So COVID definitely was a challenge. As I say, I love traveling because I get to see my students. I was lead for the AZ 900, which is the fundamental course. So when I was tweaking the presentation, changing the way we taught things, I could see the reaction in my class when I was there. Of course, online you don't get the same experience, so that changes a lot of it. You can't get that immediate feedback. Yes, people put it in chat, but it's not the same thing. But I get to test, like I used to test out various concepts. So what if I put this up and see how they react to it? So I think it's more challenging as a trainer, and also they're at home with, there's kids, there's dogs, there's food, there's the kitchen, there's things around, so you're fighting for that attention when they're listening to you train. When you're online, it's different. When you're in the room with them, they are dedicated to you, and maybe the neighbors, that's the only distraction. So it is definitely challenging as a trainer to have other distractions in the room, and they don't tend to be as engaged because they're watching in a screen. There's only, it's one way. It's one, them watching me and you watching them, and sometimes they don't have their cameras on, which happens because of bandwidth issues a lot of the time. So you're just seeing their icon or their name, and you know nothing about the person. You don't know if they're struggling, you don't know if they're paying attention, you don't know any of these questions unless they reach out. So definitely COVID made it challenging. Microsoft stepped up and changed all of the technologies when they did online training. We added a few more people in the room so they can help, ask more questions and have questions answered, so the trainer could train without being stopped every few minutes to answer a question. They added labs in again, so they had them interact with labs, and they made them 1 day, 2 day, even now I think that they're doing blended, where it's a couple days long. So they're trying to improve that as well. But it's still not the same. Even if I get a choice between taking a class online or going in person, I will go in person because I want to interact. I want to see what others are reacting to. I want to have that time with a trainer if I get that opportunity. So it's a little bit different right now.
Absolutely. What you call it? VR. You spoke about it as one of your passions, I suppose, in previous jobs. Is it something you're still as passionate about, even though you're not doing it every day? Virtual reality.
So yeah, so VR and all technology has its place. You're not developing VR just for the sake of VR. That comes back to when you said before. When I traveled through for with Salesforce and Workday to these other companies, I'd speak to the company heads, and they were telling me the problems they were having, And then that's when I introduced VR training because it solved the problem they were having. So I met so many different heads, like from Taiwan. I met the head for China. I met the head of the country, and I saw the problems they had. I was teaching basically advanced engineers to be um, more trained in a particular field to certify for safety reasons, to certify different products, and they didn't have enough trained people in the organization, and they were turning away millions of dollars of business per month per country because they didn't have the trained staff. And our problem was what the company was taking years to train these people because they couldn't get the right people in the room at the same time. So there was 15 or 20 people trying to train. The trainer was only available at certain times of the year. Everyone else couldn't make it those times. So it was just a logistic nightmare. Let's say trying to get everyone to train. So the training would take about 4 to 5 years to get all the training in before they could actually certify. So in that 4 to 5 year period, they're turning away millions and millions of dollars of business, as you can imagine, per country. So I figured, how are we going to fix that problem? Because I spoke to so many people, they had the same issue. So why don't we bring that training into virtual reality? So what we did is built a studio that they would use to do their training or to do their testing of the products. Set it all up so that there are different drawers for different things, different cabinets, different weigh scales, different types of gauge wire, different tools they would need to do that testing. Put it all in the room, and then we started with guided. So the entire process, they'd follow along, the entire process, follow along, and do the guided training. And then it'd be less guided, and eventually they would be tested on it. And then we have a trainer can fly in and test them in person. So it took the training from 5 to 6 years down to 6 months to 9 months, depends on how much training they did.
Okay. So I suppose an interesting part of our conversation tonight is women. Women in tech is a problem. We
Yes.
don't have enough of them. There's serious shortages, and it is a serious problem. Women not getting into STEM, not getting into sports, not getting into all these different things. And I suppose what I wanted to highlight this evening was we have a lovely girl named Kaylin, and she is I reached out to her, myself and Dan did. So I wanted to bring Kaylin onto the call too. She's a fan of yours, and I think it's always nice to have a fan on these video calls. And she absolutely, and everybody here on the webinar has come tonight to see you, to talk to
Oh,
you. I want to let Kaylin have her piece, and she has a few questions, and
for sure.
she'll do her best not to shock you with them. All right.
Definitely, I will not. Hi, Lorraine.
So nice to meet you.
You too. Nice to meet you. So I've joined the Microsoft days, so I'm familiar with your training sessions and everything with AZ 900 and SC 900 and whatnot, the fundamentals certification, courses and stuff. So I am familiar with you, and I just had just a few questions, mostly just about your journey through Microsoft, your growth with Microsoft and everything, how you got started. So I guess that's kind of my first question was just what led I know you have a technical training like background also too, so what led you to Microsoft necessarily?
Okay, great question. So I told you the path is never straight. So I didn't
Right.
start in technology, and I was actually on vacation, and Microsoft reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a trainer for them. So I didn't
Oh,
apply at all. So it was I was in Portugal. Sure, I'll be back in a couple of weeks if you can wait. And then they scheduled a couple of interviews, and I guess they noticed maybe my style of training was different or my
right.
background and the technology was different because I wasn't a straight trainer. Some people are just trainers, and not that it's wrong, they're trainers for 20, 30 years.
Right.
But I've
Hmm.
had, I guess, creative experience. I've had the UX experience. I've had
Yeah.
technical training in various ways. So I think it forces me to be different because remember, again, it's not straight. I have so many other
Right.
backgrounds. I think that
Yeah.
comes into play, and I think it has helped in my career because I've stood out. I'm not just a trainer because I know the technical stuff. I have all these other viewpoints, even the augmented
Right.
reality training.
Right.
People don't
You
have
bring
that
a lot
experience.
to the table.
I think so. I think so. That's what I
Yeah.
feel. Hopefully.
Yeah. Definitely. You put a creative twist on it. Like you said, you have that creative artistic to mix with it. So that's a good blend. I could definitely see why they reached out to you. My next question, I guess, that leads into how is life at Microsoft? How has it been treating you? How has Microsoft impacted your career?
Honestly, Microsoft is like a dream job, and they are
No.
so supportive.
Yeah.
I have so many incredible managers that have said, you may have to leave my team to do this, but I will bless you all the way. And I left the fundamentals team, the training team, to get into content development because I felt I could have a bigger impact there than I was training, because I was doing the AZ 900, and I reached the limit of where I could go there. And so I started reaching out, and I met a wonderful manager named Lanny Parrish. He saw the vision. He knew, because I wasn't that straight trainer for 30 years or 20 years. He saw the creative side. He saw me always problem solving, and he
Right.
just took a real gamble on me. And honestly, we're doing some incredible things. I can't announce it right now, but there's some incredible things coming through because he had this vision and this faith in me to go ahead. And Microsoft is very supportive at that. We have so many different programs, as you can imagine, in Microsoft, just to support development. I do a lot of volunteering. With the interns that come in every year, I do coffee chats with them once a week. I do a lot of volunteer teaching, and Microsoft is all supportive of that as well. If I want to do any training, I do a lot of training, of course, myself, because I just want to know. I'm curious. So there's
Right.
the training. You can never learn too much, right? So
Very
I'm
true.
always learning something new. So they've been very supportive of that too. So honestly, a dream job, because they are willing to try things. I've kind of turned things on their head and said, why don't we try this? Because I sit in a lot of meetings and question what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. You get stuck in your old ways. You do your own thing
Yeah.
till someone says, "Hey, why are we painting the wall blue? Let's
Exactly.
paint it green." So someone
Yeah.
questions it and they're willing to try it. So it's been a godsend, really.
Yeah, I always say that's one of my things about myself too. Like the worst you could tell me to, is no. Like I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna present the idea or the thought that I have, and like I said, worst case scenario you could tell me is no, or we can run with it. We could try it out, and hopefully we create something great. So and Microsoft is definitely a dream job. I can only imagine. It's my dream.
Come join me one day. Come join me.
I swear, and that's why it's my goal. It's definitely one of my goals. I've applied to be. They just had a job posting for a trainer, like an entry level Microsoft certified trainer, and I was like, everybody probably applies for Microsoft. I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and go for it. Whatever happens, happens. I'm just happy to present myself.
Good.
But before, I know, when you first came into Microsoft as a trainer, did you have already any Microsoft certifications already before you came in, or did you have to acquire those, when it came with the position?
So I'm going to tell you, once I left Apple,
Mm-hmm.
I started another job for this company that worked with Salesforce and Workday, and it's the first time I was ever on a PC in my life. So you can imagine the learning curve.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been Apple for 15 years, or
Wow.
20 years, so I've never been on a PC. So you can imagine coming to Microsoft. I knew what the cloud was because I taught OneDrive and that kind of thing, and I taught a lot of
Right.
Microsoft products, but I was not a technical trainer at all. So I knew,
Ooh.
well, not for Microsoft standards. I've done Apple training, I've done other
Right.
training at Salesforce and Workday, but not Microsoft level, not to Christian's level or anything like that. But so it was new to me, but I think it's just the angle, the way that I look at it differently is, I think, what they were looking for.
Yeah, definitely for sure. When gaining your skills and I guess the certifications, because I know you've done the training and everything too related to Microsoft and Azure, was there anything that you struggle with as far as like maybe topics or maybe aspects of Azure or any mental blocks as well too that you struggle with, and how did you kind of overcome those?
So I had to start from, I'm going to say, like most of my students, find out the basics of what even networking is before you figure out the networking problems. I'm
Mhm.
going to say, the precursor to the fundamentals course. It's like, what is computer technology? What does this mean? What does an IP address mean? All these different things were, I've heard of them, but I never knew the exact definition and what it actually looked like. So I did a lot of preliminary work. And even when I taught in person, sometimes I would throw some of those in. Well, if you don't know what this looks like, this is what it looks like. It's kind of
Right.
fill in those gaps for people who don't have that background. So I
Yep.
came from Apple, as you can imagine. Coming to the PC world, I was working on Microsoft Office for like 2 years before Microsoft hired me as a trainer. So there was quite a bit of learning, but what, that was part of the experience. I got to see how my students struggled. And when we get a lot of marketing people or execs in our courses that aren't engineers, this
Hmm.
what they are struggling with. So it was
Right.
great because I could put in those things that I struggle with. They became part of my presentation. So it
Yeah.
worked out really well. So you
Yeah,
learn from
that's
everything you
something.
learn.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like you said, for those that don't necessarily come from like a technical background, learning those basic, computing fundamentals. That was an issue for me too when I first started, when I was studying for the AZ 900 and some of the, and any of the certifications. Really, I had to really get down the a good foundation of everything first, because my degree that I'm pursuing now is a general degree, but I made sure to kind of implement some courses in there to kind of back me up a little bit, some computer science courses, just so I'm familiar with some of those terms and the methods and everything too as well. So you made a very valid point there. I can
Yeah,
relate to that.
it's the precursor to that. So I'm actually trying to develop a book of all the precursor to that because there's so many questions, and I'm a very visual learner. So
Yeah,
if I don't, I
same.
can't understand that, I'm like, oh, I don't get it. So a lot of
Yep.
my courses are, this is what that screen would look like if you happen to open up your Azure subscription. It would look like this.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh, I get it. So yeah,
yep.
that came from being in the room with people. So
For sure, for sure. I guess with your current job title now, I know you're very popular on LinkedIn. I see people tagging you and like, oh, I have successfully passed it. Even myself, I tagged you myself. Like, I participated in the Microsoft, virtual training days. Thank you so much. Like, cause it is a big help, especially like Matthew was saying with COVID and everything going on, how the training has changed. It's more accessible to outside of Microsoft and everything. Not just for those the employees, a single mom at home like me. I'm on maternity leave right now. I'm able to kind of participate in these training sessions, which are vital, and are valuable to me in my career. So what with your job title, the senior content portfolio manager, what else does that kind of entail? I know you do the advanced engineering, but are there any projects or anything personally you're working on that you can kind of share, or professionally too?
yeah, so we're always like, training is training. So most of the time it's either a PowerPoint, you watch some video, you do some assessments along the way. So
Hmm.
sitting in these meetings, hearing about all these things, my brain's going, okay, my creative brain's going, how can we fix this? Because it doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
working. Even when I sat and taught online, everyone was bored. They're playing, probably doing other things, eating, whatever, when I'm teaching. So I'm like, how do I get their attention? And that's the biggest struggle. That's the $1 million question. If everyone could solve that, we'd all be super rich. But that's what I'm working on now. How do I change the delivery experience to make
Your
it more fun?
engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a couple
Completely.
months, I can show you what I'm working on. I'm working on a project right now that's kind of under covers, but it will change the
La-
way content's delivered.
Lorraine, any just while we're coming close to the end of Kaylin's part, um, any advice for women in general, just women in tech, any advice in terms of like not being afraid to get involved in it, in reaching out online, all that kind of stuff in helping other women, get started. Is there any advice you could give to Kaylin that she could, I suppose, implement in her
For sure.
college course,
Yeah.
or her, could she become a Microsoft student ambassador or something like that? Would
That's
any of
what
There's
I'm
that
a
help?
lot
hoping
of things.
for.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of, honestly, there's so many programs out there, and because there's a lot of programs out there. Honestly,
Yeah.
I volunteered a lot. I used to like work at Ladies Learning Code as a volunteer just to see how kids react to certain things. That's where I learned Scratch, all these different things. There's so many opportunities right now, and that gets you, it takes you down a different path. You meet
Right.
people there that could give you a job, or say, can you volunteer with this? And you learn so many things. There's no wasted time. Even I was
Yeah.
teaching at or volunteering at a conference last year at University of Waterloo. It's our big tech company in Canada. And we were on a platform called GatherTown. What a phenomenal platform. You go in there and you can go speak, and you can go to conferences and meet other people. If I didn't know about that conference or didn't volunteer, I wouldn't even know it existed. So put yourself out there, put yourself in the room, because
Yeah.
naturally things will come your way. Is all I'm going to say. Because I was there, I learned something, and I share it with Microsoft because they hadn't seen it before either. But there's so many tools, so many events that you can go to that will put you in the right direction of where you want to go.
Cool.
Kaylin, is there any last questions you have for Lorraine for now before until we do the end of the show questions? Anything else
No,
you want to ask her?
no, no. I think I've covered everything. Thank you so much. I just
Okay.
appreciate, your
You're
feedback and
very
everything,
welcome.
honestly.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. Okay, so I'm going to actually unmute everyone. This is an exciting part of the conversation. So I'm going to share something, and it's a bit of sadness, it's a bit of happiness, it's a bit of everything going on in the Microsoft world. So the 30th of June marks the end of the MTA certification titles for all holders. It's the last of the bunch to go from the MCSAs to the MCSE. MTA was the original certification for anyone that did it in the Microsoft pathway before the role-based certifications came out. So it's interesting to think that we're now at the end of the old Microsoft pathway and now we're going on to the role-based from today onwards for anyone joining the, I suppose, the certification side of things. Does anyone remember them? No?
Yeah,
Gonna
I
take that
do.
as a no.
I have one.
You have one, Frank. Yeah, yeah. So,
I have one
uh,
too.
I was too late to the party on that one, unfortunately. Way too
so,
late. Just a little
so,
bit too late.
so I decided no more than most people like Lorraine. I went back last year and finished off a few of them just to have them in the bank, as they say. Nothing wrong with having them. Great content in them. Sad to see it go. With it being the final end of Microsoft's year, I just thought it'd be worth having a mention about those. Our next thing, how do we feel about the new certification style? Anybody want to raise a hand or say anything on this? For me, it was a shocker. I really, really and truly loved the old ones. How does everyone else feel? Henry, you recently got certified. I presume you found out that yours were all changed in the last few days.
So I got my SC900 a day before it was changed. So I
Yeah,
still have the old one for it. I'll keep the old one as kind of like a
yeah.
memento almost. But if I'm being honest, I don't like them. In all fairness, it's a nice change. I never had all the old ones, so I don't know what the old ones are like. This is like what the standard will probably be for the next 5 years anyway. So
I
I might as well get used to what they look like because I'm
I
probably gonna have a lot of
I
them kicking away.
I think you're right on that, Henry. I was the same. Um, Kaylin, how do I know you only just did one, your fundamentals. How do
Yes,
you feel
I
about
take my
seeing the
SC
change?
900. I take my SC 900 in like 30 minutes actually. So
Well, brilliant, amazing, amazing.
yes, so I'm excited.
How did you feel about the change in from the, like, I mean, you, everybody on here would have been issued a cert recently before this just went live and everybody's profile was changed. How do you feel? Does it look better? Does it look any worse? Do you think it's something that'll grow on you? Because I mean, it's
So
not the worst.
So no, it's definitely not the worst. I will say I've seen kind of the old ones too, even though I don't possess one or anything like that. But I kind of like the change. I think change is kind of good. It has a little bit of simplicity kind of style to it, nothing too kind of
Yeah,
crazy. But I think it's something that'll
and
grow kind of more on me too
and
as well.
and and I have a more pressing question because I'm going to put hers truly on the spotlight for a minute. Lorraine, question for you: had
Yeah.
you any input on the new certification styles? You can tell
No,
us now; they're live.
I have no input on this one at all. This is another team that handles it. I had a new
Okay,
cert that I just brought out, which we're working on the badge, but yeah, I had no input on this. It's
and
like having a
how?
certificate on your wall. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted to try something new. Maybe more people wanted that. I know that was a huge request. They wanted a certificate that they could print, so maybe that's why they're getting that.
Okay. And how do you feel about it? Do you actually like it, Lorraine? Or, like, I mean, for someone like me, I print all my certs. It reminds me of a milestone, an achievement, a bit of knowledge I've acquired. How did you feel about it? Like, I mean, you had the old style certs no more than myself, Frank,
Yeah, I do like
Henry,
the old
you know.
style, but when you're old style, did you get a cert like this as well? Like it was a picture like this?
No, I had, so the old style was it was the blue on the top and bottom.
Oh yes, yeah,
That's yeah. So that was the old style one, and then it had the badge to the right.
right.
Um, I presume everyone on here got that at some point before they
Yeah,
all changed over.
I know when I get my people that are requesting, their certificate or looking for it, they want something that's easy to print and looks, I'm going to say like this. That's why it went this way. There's
Mm.
thousands of people that request this.
Yeah, so I would imagine. Look, I'd imagine they threw it around Microsoft and said, "Hey guys, out of so many thousand people, what do people feel about the new one versus the old one?" Honestly speaking, after about an hour, I had gotten used to it myself. I did think it was a shock when I logged in to see suddenly all my certification had changed. Every
Changed.
single one of them had been updated, and only for I had a copy of my old certs. It didn't bother me then because I had a copy. But for
Yeah.
all those who may not have had a copy of their old certs when they changed over, in saying that, Microsoft did give everybody very good warning that things were changing in June, and they are changing, and they're changing for the better, from what I can see. I do think the new dashboards are way better. They're easier to use, and things seem to run smoother with them. So yeah, kudos to Microsoft, and obviously welcome aboard the new certification. Um, Okay, I brought this up and I had to bring it up.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice thing to bring up. So never in my life have I seen 115,000 impressions made on a community, and that just speaks volumes to the what you call it. That just speaks volumes to the amount of people that I suppose I kind of work with on a daily basis, and we had 115,000 impressions made on this small post of 4 badges. Lorraine, are Microsoft ever coming back with these, or was it just for Ignite? Do you think they'll start doing them again?
When did you get this? A long time ago at Ignite or recently?
So it was back in 2019. I actually did not get it originally. It was a friend of mine that got them, and I
Oh,
posted recently about them. And I remember speaking with Diego Costa, and he said, "Oh yeah, we used to be handing these out in Ignite in 2019, and people posting pictures of their lanyards with all the
yeah.
badges." Do you think it's a nice little keepsake Microsoft should bring back to those who have certified, especially for someone who is certified in the Azure Solutions Architect Expert exam? It's a nice little badge, and you'd wear it proudly to say, I have done, that work. I've got to that point, and I'm really proud of it. Why is this something Microsoft don't have anymore? Like they've gotten rid of the PDF or the printout certs. I understand that. We're trying to save paper and stuff, but this is something that
Mhm.
when you reach a milestone, you could get one of these, and they're very inexpensive, and it kind of gives you a sense of achievement. Lauren, what you think?
I do love it. I don't know if they're bringing it back, but I can see logistic wise, if you're taking online training, say there's 40 people in the class and all around the world, that could take a while to get it to you. And I'm going to say probably quite expensive to ship it to certain countries. I know when I get packages from Europe, they're like $50, $60 for just the one thing. But yeah, it's nice to have those things. It makes you feel like you've accomplished something, which you have. But it's nice to have. Even would you have a badge instead? Would you prefer a badge, not a pin, or would you prefer pin?
I think it'd be a fair point to maybe only give pins for the expert level, even someone
Yeah,
who reaches, like a pin is something you should always earn, no more than when I became RIT Tech certified with the BCS in the UK, I got an RIT Tech pin that I
nice.
wear on my suit, and you'll often see me with it. I'm in photos. It's on my left side under my work jacket, the crest and logo and stuff. But I wear it with pride, and I think the badges slash pins is something Microsoft could bring back, just even if it was just for people who reach expert level. Yes, I know it sounds unfair to not give it to everyone else, but the dedication involved in the likes of someone like myself
Yeah,
and Frank and Salman, us people that have reached that level, it's something to celebrate, and I think Microsoft would be well in bringing it back. That's just my personal opinion.
I totally understand. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not going to say I will have any influence, but I will speak to, because I know we were looking at for some ways to reward or give that pride of accomplishment. And that's what that is. It's a pride of accomplishment. So yeah, I will take that back, because I didn't even know those existed, honestly. I've never seen them before.
They're super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, they are, and I know there's plenty of people online that took a bit of fun out of it and had a laugh. And in all seriousness, for the people that are certified to expert status, doesn't mean that they're experts. It just means we've reached a certain level in
Mhm.
Microsoft's journey, and from there you really gain more industry experience with that learning, and that's what learning is. As we said, Lorraine has said it before. It's learning is a journey, not a destination, and that's why our series is called Journey to the Cloud, because
Yeah.
it's a constant journey and it's a constant learning. So look, it's just something to think about. It's something
That's
to
a
go back to
great for you to
Microsoft.
bring it up. Thank you for bringing it up. I honestly didn't
Yeah,
know they existed. I've seen other badges, but they weren't for certifications. They were like you go to a booth and you get a badge kind of thing. There was
yeah,
no
yeah,
value to that, but there's value attached to this, and there's a lot of work behind these. So I do
yeah.
understand that. Great. I'm going to see what I can do.
So we
I was going
have
to
the
say,
next. Yeah, go on.
you
Yeah.
you could always do a generalistic badge for completing all the fundamentals. Surely that
Yes.
would cut down.
Yeah.
So you could just have on the left hand side there was just a fundamentals one. Motivate people
Yeah.
to 8 of them, I think it is, and give them that at the end. Be
Yes.
like, right, there you go. Or manufacture one of them and give them one every time. I suppose that could get around that problem. I suppose. No, no.
I
Yeah.
was I was actually just I was thinking that as I had said it, Henry, but you kind of jumped on that, which was good. Even if you just got one badge, Lorraine, for fundamentals, associate, and expert, that would be a very cheap way of doing it. But recognizing someone that has reached especially in fundamentals, you've done your fundamentals, you've got that in the bag. Same with maybe the associate level exams, or even if Microsoft did it where you did fundamentals, associate, and expert, and that you'd get a badge when you had, I don't know, maybe done one in each
Yeah.
kind of, area, because they're all in different areas and specialties and, roles. It's role based. I was going to talk about this one, but I'm just after seeing the SC100 has been
Yeah.
taken out of beta. So we're super excited, us beta heads. Frank, if he's still on it, I
Yeah.
don't know. Did you take the exam, Frank? The SC100?
No, I didn't.
No,
I
no.
was doing that challenge there all June,
Yeah,
I
the
was
challenge
doing
that's not paying out at the moment for me.
um
Yeah,
I got the email there, so I earned a free uh exam
and
for
it
doing
and it
it.
worked for you, did it?
How do you mean did I get the exam?
You were able to redeem it without any issues, yeah.
No. I was just going to ask you that. I was going round
Yeah,
and
I
going
I
round in
look.
circles.
We'll take that one off the air, Frank, because I'm having that issue as well. Anyways, so what you call it? The SC100, the badge was released there on Monday night. It is the cybersecurity architect expert. It's Lorraine. It's about time Microsoft brought it out. We've been crying for it, I think, at this stage as cybersecurity people, something to finally show that we are Microsoft certified in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Did you see it? Did you kind of follow the story on it?
I haven't been following, but I know it's been long overdue. They've been talking about this for a couple of years, so I'm glad it's out now. A much needed field to get
Yeah.
certified in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really kind of says it all when you hold something like that. Just like when you hold the Azure or the DevOps or Power BI or Dynamics, you are recognized as an expert in those areas, but your learning is continuous. So it's another validation method for us engineers and cybersecurity people. Now, I have a very exciting one. It's never talked about publicly. I don't know why. So I have brought it. I decided to use this, I suppose, this video as it's our final slide for this series. in it. So it is the MVP award, Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. For those who don't know what it is, most people aspire to be awarded this if you've been in the tech industry as long as the likes of Frank Falvey, myself, Salman, Dan Ray, all these people who have had 10, 15 plus years in the tech industry. Um, Someone who is very deserving of it is Lorraine, to be honest. Unfortunately, as Lorraine knows, when you work for Microsoft, you can't be awarded MVP. But I'm
Yeah.
sure sometime it will happen because it's long overdue, Lorraine.
Thank you.
So my question is, right? We have MVP. We have MVP in general. We have it for the Windows Insider program, and we have obviously we have MCT, MCE, all those with Microsoft. When is Microsoft going to? Do you think when are they going to realize that while MVP is something everyone should aspire to, there's also a way to recognize, as you just said, people who, whether they work for Microsoft or not, they should be recognized for their efforts in the tech sector. So, like with my website, I set up the most valuable contributors, and obviously Lorraine is on that as a listed person. So when are they going to realize that you don't have to be an MVP. You can be a contributor. You can, once you do something to help others. Will that ever come out, do you think?
Honestly, I have no insight into any of that. It's yes for me. It's nice to have, but I would do it anyway. So it's
I know.
I don't need that, but I do it for my own benefit. So yeah, I have no contribution on that side. Sorry.
I think to be fair, Lorraine, your contribution is it always goes above and beyond. Your training sessions over the last 3 years surely are Microsoft see there's the value in them have been unlimited. I mean, you've reached the entire world with training. You've touched on the likes of Henry, Frank, Solomon, me, Kaylin, Dan Ray, everybody, all the people, not just on our group, but the people who are far and wide, US, UK, Canada, Australia, how that must be some achievement. Do you ever think you take it for granted a bit?
Um, I think I think when I was offered the opportunity to do it, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to, but then I realized how crucial it was, and then oh wow, this is a big deal. So maybe I take it for granted. I don't know. I still reach out to all my LinkedIn people. If you message me on LinkedIn, I will reach out to you. May not be the same day, but it might be the next day. So I have not many, not like you. I have only 25,000 followers, but getting there. And if someone needs help, I will help them. If they reach out for me to speak at events, I speak at events. So hopefully I don't take it for granted. I know it. My courses are still going on, but I do love helping people, and I get a lot of different women's groups or youth groups or whatever reaching out from there. So I do have that influence there. They can find me if they need to reach me. And I do a lot of volunteering for other organizations like Goodwill and Ladies Learning Code and all that stuff. So hopefully I don't take advantage. I don't realize the impact I've had, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think you do because in the last session you said you're the first five female trainer, um, and I actually wrote it down here. I said, "Is this an accomplishment you take for granted?" So you were one of the first five Azure technical trainers, in Microsoft. Do you think? Do you think that you've kind of underestimated your value as a person to the tech world? Because it's like I personally think, as a fan, as someone who has been trained by what you have taught, I just think it's invaluable what you've done for a lot of people, and I think kudos. And there's I don't know how you did it. To be fair,
You're gonna make me blush because I don't know if I told like I told you I wasn't expecting Microsoft to call. It wasn't even on my radar because I don't have a strong PC background. But I guess it shows you that anyone can learn technology. I was on the Mac side, the Apple side, so I knew that world really well. Didn't know the PC world, but I took, I guess, fresh eyes, and that changed the way some of the courses were, changed the way the labs were developed. And I think they realized the value of not just having someone who's been a trainer for 25 years in Microsoft. So there's a different point. I still honestly pinch myself a lot of the time. Like, I can't believe I am where I am. And every day, honestly, I love working. I would do it honestly for free because I just enjoy the challenge. When
That's
someone
that's
tells me it cannot be done, I will do it even more. When people say this technology won't work, or we can't reach the audience, or they're bored, we can't do this, I said there's got to be another way, because you guys are in technology, seeing things around you, you realize what you can do and what you can't do because it's available. When I worked at the previous company and they said we couldn't train these people, augmented reality wouldn't work, I said I've seen it work. Let's just pull it in. So, a lot of naysayers will say no, it can't be done. You just know, you were exposed to technology. Use everything you know from all the
you
different backgrounds you have and make it happen. So I
to
use
me
my
you
part, I use my augmented reality, my backgrounds, and various things to make that happen. And you guys can do the same.
to me, you always seemed like the person, Lorraine, from what I've read and what I've seen in the videos and what I've trained by over the last few years. You've always seemed like nothing was ever a problem, nothing was ever difficult in terms of you would try something 100 times and you'd keep going until it worked. And you get that from your videos.
Thank you.
You're a high achiever, and I think that's something everybody should, I suppose, strive to be. And there's nothing wrong with being it, and nobody should ever give you, I suppose, I know tech is something in schools and stuff. Kids worry about, being seen as the, I suppose, the geek or the computer nerd or something. Being nerdy is cool. It's cool.
It,
It's
it is beautiful.
it's cool. Whether you're a guy, whether you're a boy or a girl, it's cool. I think tech is something that everybody should be getting into at a young age. You've told us about your before your diverse audiences, and I suppose you do you believe the ability to be able to access free fundamental training in Microsoft products is important from a young age. Do you think it's something Microsoft should continue to do over the next 10 years to, I suppose, break the I suppose the what's it? I suppose the barriers in tech, keep that fundamentals going. And obviously you did it for a few years. So
Mhm.
you did it for many years. So is that something you're passionate about, that you would, as a person that's interested, not just for Microsoft, you'd be like, yeah, come on guys, we need to keep this going.
100%. 100%. Microsoft is trying to take technology to everyone. Technology for all is their motto. They are taking it into schools, universities, grade schools. They are taking it everywhere where someone will take them. So if you say you need help or you need to train this group, they will come and help you. Our courses are free. If you go to Microsoft Learn too, there's so many free courses there. You don't need to pay any money. And it's you spending your time. Maybe do 1 hour less of something and just spend an hour on the computer and learn something. And there's surveys about how much these certifications are worth. So if you're stuck in technology and you're stuck and don't know what to do, start watching the videos, start being curious, and you can get out of it. Honestly, you can. And it's not a whole bunch of just filling words. Watch some of the videos. It's kind of exciting. Like when you think of all this networking, it's kind of exciting when you see it all work out, and when you see some great videos. And it's intriguing, and just challenge yourself. Even if you're not in technology, challenge yourself to learn something new in a couple months. Go online. We are blessed with technology, having YouTube. We have videos. We have so much free stuff out there. Take advantage of that. We're using it for cooking and for sports. Use it for your own development. Use it for your careers. Use it to help your family, help your kids, whatever that is. Use that technology. And Microsoft is jumping in anywhere that any will have them to help them out. And that we're trying to make it for everyone. We're very accessible as well. We do a lot of programs for accessibility. We make sure anyone can take the program. So yeah, even in universities, I know there's a lot of programs. And I know Caitlin was trying to get into become an ambassador. There's a lot of student ambassadors out there. Become an ambassador. You'll get connected into
Yeah.
Microsoft. Become an intern. There's all these interns dying to get in. They come in and I speak to them, and they're like, they're so glad they're here, and they're just loving the experience. Come join us and train everyone.
I'm definitely trying.
Okay, so the next question I have is really important. I want you to go into a bit of detail on it, okay? Spend maybe 5 minutes. What is your job as a SIR content portfolio manager like? What is it like? What does the job entail? Are you able to kind of give us an insight into what your everyday is like in Microsoft, just for people that are interested into going into your line of work with Microsoft? Just for all those.
Great question. So, you know what a content developer is? They create content. So, say you have a new networking technology, you want to teach all the engineers how to use that technology. We develop the content for that. That's what a content developer does. I go one level higher where we have multiple streams, networking, security, storage, all the different streams. And I manage the training for all the different streams.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, and what? Okay, so nine to 5:30 or 9 to 5. What is the job like? As in, you go into Microsoft. How does your day start?
Azure, I specialize in Azure. Azure has 25 different sections in Azure, so we divide between two of us. I meet all of my different pods once a week, and they tell us what upcoming training is coming out, if any technology is getting old, if anything needs to be replaced, if there's a show coming up or any events they're working towards. So we meet every week, and they determine what needs to come out in the next couple months, and we look at breaking down that path and figuring out when we need to get things ready and what that looks like. So
Okay.
see if there's a new networking, there's an update in networking, maybe they need to change all the current learning modules they have out there because the term has changed and some of the way the technology works has changed. We'll go in and revise that.
So the AZ720, that was your brainchild. You're proud of her, and she has served you well. What was it like to create it?
First of all my friends as trainers, that was if you got invited to attend a blueprinting survey, let's say for an exam, that was like the best thing you can do as a trainer. So I get to run the entire certification. So there's two different teams when they make these exams. One writes the exam, one writes the learning, and they don't know what each other is doing. I'm the only one that sees both teams. So we interview people in the field and say, okay, if you wanted to be a specialist in this, what do you need to know? And they just outline every single skill they need to know. And then we break it down further. And so what would that look like? And we'd spend hours and weeks figuring out what that particular skill set looks like in the field. So we know what the field would do. And then we say, okay, this is the blueprinting survey. This is what the job or the position would look like. And we give it to both teams and we tell them to create content and we'll take a look at the content. So it's really unique experience. I heard people talking about that as a trainer. I never, in the slightest thought, I'd ever get a chance to do that because I'm not an advanced engineer. I'm just a regular person that's studying this stuff. So they're advanced engineers and they always got invited to these things. And so the fact that I can run one of these and be the lead for it was beyond belief.
What's it like to be in charge of a lot of engineers?
It's actually brilliant because they're very structured in their thinking. They see one thing and then you suggest something else. Like they want to do better. They want to be recognized. There's so many things they want to do once we know they need that. So this next thing I'm developing is to acknowledge these engineers and acknowledge their skills and their abilities and have them being recognized by their teammates. It's a big thing for them. And they're wonderful. They're so brilliant, so smart, and they do some really interesting things. And I always make sure I send positive feedbacks to their managers when they work on projects because there's some brilliant things that people do that go unrecognized. It's amazing.
Something that's not talked about a lot in tech, though, Lauren, is burnout. Talk to us a bit about that, about your experience maybe with seeing other engineers, about for the likes of Henry and other Kaylin and other people that are starting out with the Microsoft certification journey. Yes, burnout's a thing. It happens. It's tough. How do you deal with the balance of life and learning and lifelong learning, basically? Talk to us about that.
Great question. Personally, I don't have the engineer burnout because I'm not an engineer, but I think if you have still that curiosity and you still want to achieve something different outside of what you do as your 9 to 5, I think you're less likely to have the burnout because there's a curiosity, there's a drive in you that you're pushing yourself. Microsoft is very, very good at giving time off, making sure work-life balance. There's a lot of programs in there, so that if you need time off, I can take it off next week for whatever I need to do. And they're very, very conscious of that. They know burnout is real for a lot of people, but honestly, I guess I'm fortunate because I'm always curious. I'm always signing in early to see what's going on and whatever it is, so I can, I want to make that difference. I only have so many years in my life to be here, and I want to make sure I have some sort of impact. And I'm just getting started in Microsoft, so I don't see the burnout. I'm sure there is burnout there, and I think if you get bored and don't want to do what you're doing, you feel it more than if you have other interests, even at work,
Yes.
outside of work. I'm not sure if that's because I have all these other things I'm working on: augmented reality, virtual reality. There's so many things going on, I can barely keep track of it, but that's exciting. Like I find the excitement there. So if you're feeling that, I think I'm not that I'm a psychologist or anything. Find something you really love. I have a few engineers that they do their hours and tech support, but then they have this side project that they love, and that's what going. So find your side project, your side
Do
hustle,
ye
whatever that is.
do ye have anything similar over in Microsoft in the US to the garage, Microsoft Garage?
We have the garage here in the US.
Okay.
Canada doesn't have. I know the US has a couple locations of the garage. I think in Atlanta, Seattle, and there's 3 locations that they have physical locations where you actually can go and do things like that. But we all have a lot of online ones as well. I participated one in February, what was like a challenge, a hackathon challenge in the garage, and we were creating some virtual reality worlds in Microsoft Office. And you can run around, interact. You can go to the cafeteria. You can talk to each other. So we're just playing around in the garage, and we were just solving a challenge of how to make learning more interesting. So it was just a fun thing. But I worked with a team in India, and some of them were in Costa Rica, and we worked on a project together. So we didn't have to be there.
What's the coolest thing you've ever seen in Microsoft in the garage being made in Canada?
Um, they're doing a lot of with the 3D printing things. There's some interesting things they're doing there. Not exactly related to training, but it's just the possibilities of what it can be done in the future with it. So even those badges, maybe they do those locally, print the 3D badges and distribute it for the courses locally or things like that. So I see some really interesting projects that come out, and even automating different technologies of entering your email boxes or whatever. There's so many things out there. I think there's so much noise, though. Finding the one that really is going to take you to the next level, or that you're really excited about, is what it is. There's so much things going on.
You mentioned okay. You mentioned back on the last session. Turning point for girls in technology. Can this be improved?
100% it can be improved. Yeah. So I think it's sparking that curiosity. I'm going to say again, it's not all computer science, and you don't have to do only coding. So we have to realize there's more out there than just straight coding or engineers. There's a lot of other fields. Like, look at me, I'm not a technical engineer, but I'm in technology.
I just want to interrupt you for 1 sec, Lorraine.
Yeah,
Sorry. Best of luck to Kaylin on her SC 900 exam. Kaylin, you're
Thank
unmuted if you
you.
want to say something.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone. Thank you, Lorraine, for just, your feedback and everything, responding to all my little questions and whatnot. So, and thank you for the training, which is part of the reason why I'm getting ready to take the SC 900. So I appreciate it. So, and thanks everyone for wishing me luck. So good luck to me, I guess. So I'm
Yes,
going to go
let
ahead
us
and
know how it goes. I'm sure you'll do fine.
I
Yeah,
definitely will let everyone know. I'll keep everybody
please
kind
do.
of
Yeah,
Thank you.
on LinkedIn. So thanks, y'all.
please do. Best of sorry, no, I'll just unmute everyone because they probably want to say it. Best of luck, Kaylin, on your exam. Everyone's unmuted.
Thank you. I'm trying to get
Best
my
of luck.
certifications up like y'all. I'm trying to be like y'all. So
All right,
Wish you all
Kaylin.
the best.
Okay, sorry, Lorraine. Apologies.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that
Of
in there
course.
before she signed out. Um, you were sorry. You were saying the turning point for girls.
Yeah, I think we have to realize you don't have to be an engineer to be in technology. There's so many different fields. Even before, there's doctors, lawyers, this, that, whatever. Now there's so many other fields. Don't be scared. Like, try something. And if you're not a coder, maybe there's something similar or something else you can do that's in technology.
You said back on the last video, one thing you mentioned was push a little harder. do you feel this is something you have to do much in the tech sector, especially as a woman? Because that did come up in our last webinar. You do you think I suppose, do you think people expect more from you? Do you said you pushed a little harder. Do you think that's a fair assessment to say that you should have had to ever, you know, considering everybody should be equal in tech? We're all trying
Yeah.
to, you know, get through it and build a future for us. Do you think it's too much dominated with men? Do you think women need to just step on board now and kind of push it to be kind of neutral?
Yeah, I think I had to push a little bit more because I'm going to say I got into it earlier. But we shouldn't have to push. Not that, but there's no perfect world out there. Sometimes you have. Well, remember, there's men who've been there forever. So when there's say new females on the team, they're not used to females being on the team. So there's a little bit you have to, to be more flexible with. Yeah, you still have to. I'm going to say push a little bit, but make yourself heard. Like, don't be afraid to put your hand up and volunteer for things or jump on committees or say, I don't think that's right. So have your say and be confident that you can say it. And even if you're wrong, not everyone else is right either. Sometimes they know they're taking that challenge and they're saying yes, or they're taking a stand. Take a stand. We shouldn't have to push. Sometimes you'll have to push a little bit. And then, once they recognize your skill and ability, you won't have to push anymore.
Yeah. And is what you call it? Sorry, now I had it up here. Um, the biggest challenge in Microsoft so far, what has it been?
In Microsoft or for me, you mean? Or
For you in Microsoft, what has
um,
been the biggest challenge?
I guess when I first started, I'm going to say I started as a trainer. I was in the likes of people who had 20 or 30 certifications when they started, and I was learning what it all meant. The cloud was totally new to me, except for OneDrive I knew. So I guess coming in were a totally new viewpoint, and they've been training in Microsoft technologies for 15 to 20 years, and here I am,
Mm.
right out of the Apple world, trying to learn Microsoft. That was the hardest thing, I'm going to say. And then once I skilled up and I was speaking at Ignite and Ready and all those events, and not everyone gets to speak, as you can imagine. And they
Mm.
would ask me, like, how did you get chosen to speak? And then when I spoke, they said, oh, I get it. So,
Okay.
Eventually they'll get to realize your skill or whatever that is. And that was the hardest because I was new to PCs and to Microsoft.
We're nearly there, Lorraine. So I'm going to share something. Pearson VUE, guys. Okay, so it's something that a lot of people have, they've been complaining about and stuff. I do want to reach out and to recognize the proctors, who gave 110% throughout COVID to allow people to certify, get trained. Kudos to you. Well done. You have changed people's lives. You've operated a fair training environment, and well done to all the proctors out there in Pearson VUE who helped everyone, take their exams in a secure environment and gave a fair shake on how exams should be set out remotely. So thank you to them. Thank you to them. And just, worth mentioning, shout out to Pearson VUE, who are the exam provider for many exams, just like Microsoft. So shout out to them. I want to give a shout out to Christian, who, Lorraine, you know Christian well. Your friends and colleagues. So shout out to Christian, who would have been here this evening if he could, but he just couldn't. So shout out to Christian from myself and Lorraine and everyone on it. Another shout out to Chelsea Lee, who is a wonderful technical trainer and MCT. She is making headway in the IT community and is really, she's popular. She's got out there. Um, I decided to bring Ralph into the mix. Ralph is a good friend of ours. He brought us around Microsoft One Place in Dublin when Dan Ray and Frank Falvey were over. So I just wanted to give it a shout out to Ralph. He's an absolute gentleman of the highest order. He is the he's the customer success manager for Microsoft in Dublin. He's a lovely man, and if anyone gets the pleasure of meeting him and getting a tour of Microsoft in the garage, you'll have a great time. Uh, this is just a quick picture of the three of us with Ralph in Microsoft in Dublin. Just worth getting out there to all the engineers that have been following us and the video series and Journey to the Cloud. We have really, really come on leaps and bounds. Um, that's a picture of Dan and Frank at the garage with Kieran. Shout out to Claire Smith, who is head of the MVP for UK and Ireland program. She knows Kieran very well, and Dan, of course, and Frank. They were there taking the picture, happy as anything. Microsoft One Place, what a fantastic building. Um, a dream, a vision, something to work towards for many of us, I'm sure. So it's just nice to put it in there as part of the slide deck. And of course, we have the beautiful Lorraine Lawrence, who has joined us tonight. This is her LinkedIn page, and I said I would share that out. You're grand. So as I said, we have the lovely Lorraine Lawrence there as our content portfolio manager. It must be weird seeing yourself up on the screen, but sure, look,
It's
you,
exciting. It's
you'll
exciting. I wouldn't have thought I'd been
you'll
there 5 years ago.
you'll get used to it. You're a star at this stage in the
Oh,
Microsoft community. So look, I just that Lawrence slide is our last slide on that deck. Lorraine, I'm just going to sorry now. I'm just going to change this up. I only have a few more, one or two small questions. We have nearly reached the end of it.
sure.
Something that got me in Journey to the Cloud 6.0 was when you said we need to encourage everyone. You missed people. Do you think COVID brought people together in a way no other crisis has? And it's something that, in all seriousness, I think we need to kind of, I suppose, on this webinar in particular, I had to ask the question because everybody got so passionate about it. COVID changed the world. Did it change it for the better, do you think?
I think it did. I think we took advantage of each other and we didn't realize the importance of family, friends, interaction with people. When we were taken away from everything and everyone we knew, we missed them. We missed each other. We missed hanging out with each other. We missed seeing people. Seeing videos of New York and it being deserted was hurtful because if you know New York, it's full of life, full of excitement. I think we realized that we really need each other in this world. And COVID, when everyone was locked away in their own worlds, we weren't the best people. We were much better when we're social. So I think it made us stand back and think, what is our life value if we're all on our own and we're not meeting friends and we're not interacting, we're not having that social bonding, the physical, hugging and touching and doing things with them. I think it really made us realize that we need each other out there and we have to stand and defend each other and support each other. I know my neighbors, we'd have porch parties and we just hang on our porches and sit and talk to each other because we miss talking to people. That's not the same online. I don't know what it is. It's just I think we really need to step back and think what the last 2 years was to a lot of us. Terrible things have happened. People were more abusive. There was they had problems with mental stress, anxiety, because they weren't around people like we're used to. So that's what I want to say. I think we need to go hug our neighbors and, appreciate, the interactions we have. Thank the people to make food when you go buy the food and, thank them for being there because we need each other in this world. And I don't think there's enough people supporting everyone.
I would absolutely second that. I suppose for me, COVID was it was a tough time, like a lot of
Yeah.
people. I think what kept me going the most was actually Microsoft. I don't work for Microsoft, but I do have a love for their certification, their learning, their ethos, their their designs, the people who work there, the likes of Christian, Chelsea, yourself, Lorraine, Claire Smith, Ralph, all those people that make a difference, and it's one thing that makes a difference. It's a small thing, and it's just being courteous and nice, and extending an olive branch to people, especially when COVID was over. When we got invited up to Microsoft in Dublin, it was something spectacular. And I had been in Microsoft before, but Ralph took the time out of his day to give us, a private tour, and it was amazing. And it's those things people remember, and it's the likes of you coming on tonight's event is what people remember. I'll remember it, and just remember, you make a difference in people's lives. Don't think you don't, and don't think you ever don't matter, because I think people don't say it enough. So honestly, Lauren, you're a lady. You're just something else. Your learning was
Sweet.
amazing over COVID, and thank you. I learned a lot from it. I'm sure Henry and Solomon and Frank and Joseph and all the rest have learned a lot from your training online. So just thank you. Um, Absolutely. Henry, Solomon, have you any last questions for Lorraine before we let her go? We're nearing the end of our session.
I think you've done the job of asking any questions I had, Matthew.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think I shall abstain on that one. I don't have anything else to ask.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fair enough. Lorraine, is there anything else you want to say? Is
I
there
have two
anything
things
you'd
I
like
want to say,
to?
actually. What you were saying there's a Maya Angelou quote. It's people don't care what you do; it's how you make them feel. So remember, when we interact with people, it doesn't matter, you bought something from them. It's if you thank them, if you gave them a hug, if you appreciated something. People remember how you make them feel. So remember that. And I found a quote. You're allowed both to be a masterpiece and a work in progress. So think of that when you're doing your training, when you're improving yourself. You're a masterpiece, but you're also improving for future.
Absolutely, Lorraine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the two guys go. All right, and you and I will just spend the last 2 minutes discussing one more thing. Guys, thank you so much, Henry and Solomon, for joining us. I'm going to let you go. Okay.
Yeah, thank you
No
so
problem
much
at
for your
all.
time.
No problem.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so
bye.
much.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so it's just yourself and myself, Lorraine. So honestly, thank you so much for joining me tonight. As always, having someone from Microsoft makes a difference to our videos and our sessions. I'd like to think that um we'll get you back again further
For
down
sure.
the line. I know you must be excited to go on holidays and stuff now that you're at the year end.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Year end was today.
yeah, yeah. Today was the end for a lot of things. The MCT, the end of the old certification, the start of the all the betas coming out of beta period.
Yes.
The day you decided to come on a one-on-one with me for longer than you imagined.
It
And
was wonderful.
look, always nice to have you. Keep in touch on LinkedIn, Lorraine. Microsoft holds, a special place in our hearts, anyways. All the people that are part of Journey to the Cloud. So thank you, honestly, thank
Thank
you,
you.
and keep doing what you're doing. You
Thank you.
are amazing, honestly.
You're too kind, and I do enjoy it anytime. You want me back, I'll come back and speak or whatever. But yeah, reach out if anyone wants to reach out on LinkedIn. Matthew's got an amazing site as well, and you've got so much going on. So I'm learning from you as well. But yeah, go and improve yourself, learn, intrigue yourself so you're excited. That's what I have to say.
Any last comments for people that are getting through their learning, and we're coming into the summer? Would you advise them maybe take it handier, enjoy the nice weather, get out a bit, Still do your study, but do it in moderation or anything.
Yeah, we've
that.
come off of COVID where we haven't seen everyone, so enjoy the company of others for a while. Fill your hearts, fill your souls, so you can go back and study and be better at what you are, because we've missed all that. Microsoft Canada had a huge lockdown. We were almost 2 years of no interaction with almost anyone. A lot of things were locked down. Restaurants were locked down for a year and a half. Our borders were closed for almost 2 years with the US. So we've had a really strong lockdown here. So go out and enjoy. Get out of the house, go do things, meet people, interact, fill your soul, and then you can come back and be stronger at what you do.
Absolutely. And it has never been said better. Thanks a million for joining us tonight, Lorraine. I'm going to see us out with the credits. Have a good evening and we'll chat again. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.